Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to our virtual Open Iftar 2021 and thank you for joining us today on Zoom, Facebook and YouTube. My name is Farah and I am going to be your host for this evening with Adnan. You can give a wave, Adnan, so we can say.
Hello everyone, hope you can hear me clearly.
Excellent, you're sounding really good, Adnan. But before we get started, we have an exciting event planned today with Tamara Gray. And before we get started, I would like to thank our media partner for this year, Islam Channel, and give a very special welcome to those joining us today from Islam Channels, Facebook and YouTube. It is an absolute pleasure to have all of you with us today. I also want to thank the Arts Council UK, whose help has allowed us to continue our work this Ramadan, all of which is available on our website. This includes our virtual Open Iftars every night of Ramadan, our Ramadan Lates courses for the first 18 days of Ramadan, and our My Open Iftar packs for 2021. Now, this year's packs not only help to bring the Ramadan spirit to your home, but in collaboration with Islamic Relief, our charity partner, with each pack bought, you will be feeding a person in need for the whole month. And you can check out the incredible work Islamic Relief does at iruk.co/RTP. So, our virtual Open Iftars are interactive, and so we would like to really encourage everyone to hop onto the Zoom meeting. And for those of you who are comfortable, please turn your camera on. It will be fantastic to see you. And we're going to begin with a quick run through of the tech. Now, you'll find at the bottom of your screens or in the More section on your mobile, the reactions options. So you can show us how you're feeling in real time. And there's also a raise hand option for if you want to ask our speakers a question or add to the discussion, and someone from our back-end team will unmute you. So let's begin. I'm going to hand over to Adnan, and Adnan is going to go through today's agenda. So over to you, Adnan.
Thank you, Farah. That's really good. Yeah, like Farah said as well, I mean, we want this to be as interactive as possible. Therefore, we encourage everyone to be able to put their screens on, put the videos on. I'm sure everyone's had the opportunity to get a haircut as well. So let's get it all out. So the agenda today, so we're actually going to have a little bit of an icebreaker first. We're going to be able to just get to know our audience a little bit more and see who's about. For about, let's just say 7 to 8 minutes. 7:15, we'll then introduce our speaker, who'll have about 15 minutes to give her piece on leadership and creativity. So that will be the topic for today. We'll be then following a question and answer section at 7:30 for about 20 more minutes. And then following that, we'll have about 5 more minutes to be able to just reflect on what's happened today, what we've talked about before the azan at 8:01. So we're looking to conclude by 8:01. We'll go into the azan, and after that, we'll just conclude the whole session as well. So that being said, let's get to see who actually is our audience today. Well, Farah, how have you been so far anyway? I can see Shabana's around and Hawazin's around. I want to see some more faces. I'm surprised not so many.
Turn on your videos, guys. It'll be so nice to see. As Adnan says, hopefully. Don't worry about your hair, even if you haven't had a haircut. It's absolutely fine. But Adnan,
I was saying before, I was speaking to Ahmad, who's around as well. For those that don't know, Ahmad's sort of part of the RTP wider group as well. And he had a really nice haircut before. We were like, just come online, it's fine, it'll be good. I mean, I've booked mine for about 2 weeks' time, so I'm looking forward to it. But I'm sure everyone else is, it's fine. Let's bring it on. How are you finding the fast so far, Farah, anyway?
Do you know what? This year, it's been really interesting. Alhamdulillah, it's been a lot easier than it was last year. And I think having not sort of being, in the depths and throes of lockdown really helps. And there's really uplifting news going on. We're doing really well. We're doing really well with the vaccine program. And it's just nicer. It's so nice and sunny. I think that really helps. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely helped. I was lucky enough, I was speaking to Farah about this earlier, I was lucky enough to sort of get away into Egypt for a bit. So during the whole the winter period, I kind of skipped it and managed to get a bit of a tan in Egypt. And the story is different over there in the sense that, being a Muslim country and all as well, everyone's very much engaged with Ramadan, especially this time around. But I think this flagship virtual Open Iftar is picking really good areas on bringing people together, and it's very good to see, and I'm really grateful for those sort of things for sure as well. And that being said, I actually want to speak to some of the people who've been involved regularly, like Hawazin and Shabana, I can see, and I want to try and gauge your experience so far as well. So I'm going to pick on Hawazin because she's smiling first, and then I'll come to Shabana afterwards as well.
Shabala then started smiling afterwards.
She started smiling after, right, didn't she?
Yeah. She's
Maybe
ready.
We'll bring both on.
And what I want to say, Adnan, before we have a chat with Hawazin, do you know what? Anyone who is watching on Islam channel or Facebook or YouTube, just come in, log in on Zoom, go to Ramadan Tent Project and, log in on Zoom, join us. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your questions. Thank you so much, Alim, for showing your camera. Fantastic. Assalamu alaikum. And everyone in the chat box, post where you're calling from. It'll be really nice to know where everyone's from today. Right, Adnan, over to you for Hawazin.
Okay, Hawazin, I'm going to unmute you first. Assalamu alaikum, Hawazin. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can, loud and clear, loud and clear. Where are you coming from?
I'm calling from London. It's not a very exotic place, but alhamdulillah, good.
Good. Were you in France for a bit first, and then you came back to London? Was that the?
It's a very good question. Actually, I come back to France during the holidays during winter, actually, Christmas holidays. And then right now I'm just missing it so much because, like traveling is quite complicated right now. You need to do the test and pay so much. So I'm just like slowing down things. Now it's been like from January, I didn't come back to France. I'm missing the family, I can say, like, to be honest. Well,
to log on to Untitled Chapter over here as well. Now we get to see them as well. I'm quite interested.
Yesterday they connect actually. They say, seeing your face in it was so funny. My mom, I was like, oh really? I sent her the link and she was like, I've seen you.
Oh, we love that. What's the vibe like in France anyway at this time? Like, let's say during Ramadan, what would be happening? Really curious to know that.
So right now, everything is like so there's a lot of cases of COVID, unfortunately. So a lot of things closed. But otherwise, I think for Ramadan is like usual at home, like previous year. For the mosque, I'm not sure if they are open or not. Like now here in London, we've got the chance to have some mosques open, which is nice, even though it's limited, of course, and we need to always to have like the distance of security. Well, yeah.
Well, good to hear, and it's good to get its perspective on what's happening on the world as well. There's a couple more people joining actually. Farah, do you wanna get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I've just dropped Veronica a message. Veronica, are you happy if I mute you? Yeah? Over to you, Veronica.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Veronica.
Hi, sorry, my name is actually my son's name on the account, but I don't know how to change it. So, yeah, my name is Veronica.
Veronica, and I couldn't see. Okay.
And I'm really sorry. I probably will have to switch the camera off because I'm actually cooking at the moment as well. So, but yeah, I just wanted to say hello and thank you guys for doing this. I know this year we were probably hoping to be again in person, but hopefully inshallah next year. But yeah, I've gone to the Ramadan tent before. I think it must have been like 4 or 5 years ago, and I always wanted to go again because I was a student at UCL, so I think that's how I got involved. And it's just a shame we just haven't been able to do it again in person, but thank you so much for doing this, and I'm just going to be in the background trying to listen. And
Veronica, before you go, sorry, what are you cooking?
Well, I'm Colombian, so I'm making a Colombian soup. So my son requested it, so it's called Ahiako, but it's basically like chicken soup. But it's really nice. And yeah, but I don't know if I'll share it with you. I might be able to finish it before this thing, but yeah, it's really like filling, and it's just got different types of potato, corn, and some other thing that we use, some special herbs that you only find in Colombia, but it's really nice. So yeah,
you've got to definitely take a picture of that and share it on social media,
Okay.
and then hashtag open it afterwards. We've got to see this.
And
He's
also
written
show
about
us
it.
the video if you finish beforehand. Sort of point your camera. We would love to see,
Okay, I'll try.
totally different.
No pressure,
So
guys.
much. No pressure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We'll speak to you later.
Thanks.
Adnan, did we say we were going to have Shabana?
We did. Let's have Shabana and then we can go into the talk after that. If Shabana gives us a smile again. Yeah.
I guess she's smiling now. She's ready.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I wanted to know what Veronica was cooking. So I'm glad you asked the question. It sounds delicious. I wish we could all share it. Well, I didn't even know what the question was. Yeah, I went back home for a couple of months in Manchester. So I came back to London just before a few weeks ago. I'm supposed to get myself back in the routine, I suppose, for Ramadan. So yeah, it's going well. The weather's really nice, so that always helps.
Yeah, definitely. So you're down in London at the moment, did you say?
Yeah, I'm down in London, so I came back
And
down.
what are you doing? Are you working or are you studying at the moment?
Yeah, no, I'm working. So I have a job as a lawyer, and then obviously doing volunteer stuff as well. But yeah, it's just been nice to do extra, kind of have this spare time to just do so many other like personal projects, and obviously helping out family and friends as well. So yeah, I'm actually enjoying kind of lockdown. I know people probably don't want to hear that, but it's nice to have time for self-reflection as well.
Yeah,
I agree. It is nice, isn't it, to have that bit of time, Adnan?
Yeah, I mean, the element of enjoying lockdown, I kind of get, in the sense that you don't have to deal with the whole hassle of running around and having to commute and anything else like that as well, for sure. But no, we're definitely glad you're here, and we're glad that you could join us on Ramadan 10 project as well. It's a really good way to just make sure you stay connected.
No, I do love it. I do miss the tent though, I have to say. I've volunteered in tent for quite a few years, and obviously it's online is amazing, and everyone's done such a good job behind the scenes, and you guys are doing an amazing job as hosts. So yeah, we're lucky to have this, I suppose. It is really good.
Thank you, Shabana.
You're right, it's a totally different experience when it's live, when you've got hundreds of people sitting, meeting strangers, talking to strangers. That's the best thing, exactly, Adnan, isn't it? Just how it brings people together and gets talking and meeting people who you wouldn't normally do. And at the end of the day, when everyone's been fasting or not fasting, it's just still so nice. You have that amazing energy sort of buzzing around and waking up, as it were.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other thing I want to add as well at this stage is it was also in the talk yesterday, but even though we're not sort of in the 10 right now or meeting people and networking, that sort of stuff, we can definitely utilize this time and this event here right now to be able to interact with as many people as possible. I mean, I just want to share a personal example. I think last year when we were doing this, it was my first year doing this open iftar, and through the talks we had with various different speakers, I think I managed to sort of get involved with other activities. I think Islamic Makers was a really good one, and I joined the Kickstarter program, and there's a few other examples as well. I think honestly, yesterday's talk was really good. It's Brentford Football Club that came up and shared their details. Anyone that's watching that wants to get involved, I really support and encourage people to just take a chance. That's it.
And it's also the best thing about this, we're all a big family. We love everyone joining us. We love meeting new people. We love chatting to new people and learning, all these different things. Like we learned about Colombian stew today, so I'm really happy. Adnan, I'm conscious of the time. Are you ready for our awesome speaker and intro? Definitely.
Thanks, Giovanna. So, okay, moving forward, let me do an introduction quickly. So, Dr. Tamara Gray is the Executive Director and the Chief Spirituality Officer of Rabasa, where she works to fulfill her dream of building a rising tide of women leaders, teachers, and community stewards. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite Tamara Gray onto the virtual stage. Assalamu alaikum, Tamara. Can you hear us?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes, I can.
How are you doing? I hear you're also joining us from the States, so a little bit of a time difference, but we really appreciate the fact that you've been able to come on.
Yeah, it's 1:20 in the afternoon, so I think we have a 6-hour time difference.
Okay, I was thinking this backwards, so I thought, wow, it's going to be Oh no, it is
No,
backwards. Yeah, one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's backwards. Yeah, it's not forwards. Yeah, yeah. It's
Not
not the
forward,
middle of
not
the
forward.
night. It's 1:20 in the afternoon, sitting in my office. All is well.
Yeah.
Whereabouts are you based, Tamara? Where it's lovely and sunny by
Minnesota,
the looks of it.
Minnesota. So, the state of Minnesota is in the middle at the border with Canada. So we're really very much northern Midwest. And this is where I'm
Fantastic.
originally from. So I was born here, and I lived in Damascus, Syria for 20 years, and then I came back here to Minnesota. So it's been kind of a full circle for me.
Wow. Okay. I've never actually been to either of those places, but Damascus I've heard a lot about for sure. Minnesota, maybe for the wrong reasons. I think on the news, but
We're the state of snow.
no. Okay.
The state of
Well,
snow. Hopefully there's no snow at the moment and it's just nice and sunny, because I know it can snow into March as well.
It can snow into May in Minnesota.
Wow.
We just had snow 2 days
God.
ago, but it's all gone now. We've actually, yeah, it's spring. I would say it is officially spring in Minnesota. But spring, that doesn't mean we won't get snow again, but I'm hoping we don't. We'll see.
amazing. So we have about 15 minutes, in which the stage is all yours for leadership and creativity.
All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi ashabi ajma'in. As I was introduced, I'm Tamara Gray, and I really am excited about talking about leadership and creativity because my doctorate is in leadership, and my organization that I started in 2012, but it wasn't official till 2015, it's all about creativity. It's even in our mission statement that we want to create positive cultural change through creative educational experiences. So I think I want to just say, I want us to walk a path together and think about what creativity is. And let's have an agreed upon definition just for these few minutes of chatting, where creativity means that it's the ability of an individual or a group of people together to discover new and original ideas, connections, and solutions to problems. That's a really important issue, a really important part of creativity to me. That we are people that see a problem, can imagine, we have the ability to see that there is a problem, can imagine solutions, and then take that next step to design possible solutions to those problems. And that step between imagination and creativity is important because imagination is not creativity. The ability to think of a solution is not creativity. Creativity is the ability to think of a solution and put it into action. And subhanAllah, our Islamic history is rich with stories of creative applications of design. And I want to use a term here while we talk, which is heart design. I believe this was coined by Peter Gold, who is an incredible designer. He designed the Salam Sisters dolls, and he does just a lot of work in design. He's been doing it for many years. He's in Australia, a Muslim convert who he gives a workshop in heart design. And his point with this is that everything we design should come back to our fundamental values. As in the case of Muslims, should come back to the fundamental concept of Tawheed and what our foundational, beliefs about what it means to be good and to bring good and to cause good on the earth. And so when we're thinking about heart design, to use his term, and we're thinking about creativity, and we're thinking about that creativity responds to problems and brings forth our innovation, then heart design is really that piece inside that is the bridge between I can imagine how to solve a problem and I can design a solution for that problem. Now, we are, as a community, we've struggled with this idea of creativity in the past. We've had terms that have been thrown around and weaponized even. For example, the term bid'ah. The term bid'ah is often tossed around as something that is really a horrible thing, and it can be, certainly, if it's used in a horrible way. Bid'ah means an innovation. But innovation in English is something that we think of as really not only positive, but something that is a discipline. It's something that brings creativity into a higher level where we are innovating and finding ways. We are getting ahead of problems. We're not waiting for problems to overtake us. We're getting ahead of problems so that we can stop them before they start. That would be innovation. And so I just want to make sure that we understand as Muslims that our early scholars understood this and differentiated between bid'ah sayyi'ah and bid'ah hasana. That there is indeed something called bid'ah hasana, which means a good or an excellent innovation. And in fact, the Prophet ﷺ told us that the one who innovates something that is good and other people follow him or her in it, then you get the reward for the thing that you did and everyone who does it after you. So it's not just a word that, oh yeah, there are good ones, but let's be careful. No. This is something that we should be seeking to do, to find good, creative solutions to our problems and innovate ways to solve them. Now, leadership, if we talked about creativity, leadership is something that people have discussed for centuries about what is leadership. I would say that for as Muslims, as a Muslim woman, I consider leadership the ability to follow in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ in our concern for the ummah and in our recognition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed us as khulafa al-ard, as those who are his vice regents, if you will, or those, we are indeed responsible on this earth for what our role here is and how we are bringing forth goodness. So if we recognize this, that yes, we are of the khulafa. This is in Surah Al-Baqarah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels that he will create and make upon the earth khalifa. And the angels, of course, argue back and say, what? You're going to make those who shed blood and create chaos? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. Indeed, I know what you do not know. I think there would be a good argument to say that one of the really special and unique things about the human being is our ability both to lead and to be creative and to bring these together for good and khair and goodness. Now let's look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ and really recognize where this may have manifested so that we can think about how we might want to manifest it in our lives. The one really important story to me is the story of Bilal radiallahu anhu, where the Prophet ﷺ said to Bilal, he was curious. He said, what are you doing that you have a unique amount of reward from Allah Azza wa Jal? Because I have heard your footsteps in paradise. So the Prophet ﷺ wants to know, what is it? Do you have a secret deed? And Bilal comes to him with something which he had not been told to do by the Prophet ﷺ. So whenever I complete a wudu, whenever I make wudu, I always pray like an extra prayer, an extra 2 rak'ahs. Now, the Prophet ﷺ didn't say, why did you do something that I didn't tell you to do? And Bilal, if we look at our definition, he saw a problem. The problem was, I'm Bilal and I want to go to Jannah. And he looked around him and he found lots of companions who were doing lots of good work. And he imagined a situation where I can make wudu and I can right away with that fresh wudu pray 2 rak'ahs and increase the light within, increase the spirituality that I have, increase my closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he applied it and went forth with it, and then the Prophet ﷺ approved. There are many stories like this in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and certainly we see these stories again with Umar radiallahu anhu, with Osman, with Abu Bakr, and with Ali, with our Khulafa al-Rashideen, our very first early leaders, and throughout our history. I want to talk about what are the problems that we need to be creative about today. What do we need to lead through today? And I think one of the things we talked about earlier, just in the discussion, which is how do we create community in a world of separation? How do we create community using digital tools? And how can we be really honest about what our problems are in community and respond to them with positive, creative solutions. Because it is not a solution just to get angry about the problems that we have. But it is not creative to just keep on doing the same things we've always done that are not solving our problems. Leadership means we are willing to be honest about the problems that we have. One of the problems that I am attempting to face and deal with is the problem of inclusion of women at the masjid. And when I say inclusion, I actually don't want to say inclusion. I want to say the problem of the masjid that does not look like the Prophet's masjid today. And the result of that is many different problems that we have in community. One of them is that women don't feel welcome in the masjid in general. It is the rare masjid that a woman feels welcome in. That's her feeling. The second problem is women are actually not welcome in some masajid. And the third issue is if women are not going to the masjid, where are they finding community and spiritual and religious growth? And if we don't care about that, then we have an even deeper problem of leadership in our community, where we're so stuck in the way we've been doing things that we're not willing to face the issue that we are about to die out as a community. Because if we are not bringing forth our women if we're not opening doors for our women to bring themselves forth in feelings of comfort and feeling amplified and feeling as though they belong, this is their space, then we are closing the door to the next generations of Muslims. And 20, 30 years from now, we are going to be facing problems that nobody even imagined today. So with leadership and creativity, we have to first begin with the problem. And we have to deal with we have to come to that problem with honesty and face those problems. But let's look at Badr. Let's circle back to the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Badr was a frightening time. It was a frightening time. There was an enormous army coming from Quraysh. The Prophet ﷺ had a small army, of which some had left. That was even smaller. He realized that it was an actual fact that he and the small little group of Muslims could be wiped off the face of the earth at that time. He was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when he reached the place to camp, he called on the people to set up camp on the south side of the edge of what water was there. Now he's the Prophet. And Habab ibn Munzar said, Ya Rasulullah, is this place that you're camping a place that Allah chose for you, then we shouldn't move away? Or is it based on your opinion and what you think we should do? Prophet ﷺ said, no, this is my opinion. And so Al-Habab gave a different opinion. This is really important because it demonstrates the importance of keeping our eyes open all the time and being able to talk about without offending leadership. Like if you're a leader, you should not be offended by people coming to you with their issues and their questions and their problems and what they see as problems. And if you are a person in community that has leaders to talk to, if you can't go to that leader to say, with politeness, of course, and respect, this Habab's adab is impeccable. We are people of adab. We should be people of adab. And if we don't feel comfortable going there, then we don't have leadership. Period. So we need to, as a community, it's Ramadan. We need to be really serious about we have to stop, in my opinion, we have to stop pretending we don't have problems. And we also have to stop being angry about the problems that we have. Because anger is arrogance. One of the ways that creativity actually works is in humility. Look at Habab, how he speaks to the Prophet ﷺ. He doesn't come and say, listen, I know that you're not really a military guy, and I really am. So could I just step aside for a minute while I fix this? No, he comes with humility in asking questions. And to do that, we always need to bring in prayer and asking Allah first. Let's circle back to Badr. The Prophet ﷺ is Rasulullah. Rasulullah, he has a direct line, direct connection. There's no one on the face of the earth, no matter how good they are, how wonderful they are, how incredible they are, who has what the Prophet ﷺ had with Allah. And yet, The entire night before Badr, he spends it in prayer, and it is said that his prayer was so intense that his arms were up for so long that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu worried about him, and came to hug him and tell him, you know, don't worry, it'll be okay. So if we're walking on this journey, we started with this definition of creativity. That in order to have creativity, we have to be able to identify problems. We see this at the life of the Prophet ﷺ. In order to have creativity, we have to be able to be honest about the problem. And then we need to be able to think about new solutions, but thinking about them is not enough. We have to be able to apply solutions as well. And we have, in the application of solutions, we have to come forward with humility. And before those solutions come down, we have to bring in heart design. The ability to design, not just graphics. Design is not just a picture, a flyer we put up. Design is how we design our work and our programming and what we do so that it truly reaches deeply into the issues and problems that we have as a community. And the last thing I'll say before I open it up for questions is that it's very important that as leaders, because really everyone is a leader in one way or another, that as leaders, we are able to walk forward into the muck, into the muck of problems and not be afraid. We need to care more about solving the problems than concern about what will people say about us as we try to solve the problems. With the caveat that while we shouldn't worry what people say about us, we should definitely be concerned about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, quote unquote, saying about us to the angels, if you will. It's sort of a way to think about that. We definitely should care about that. And so we can't imagine thinking about fulfilling problems in community unless we, as Bilal realized, unless we first worry about solving the individual personal problems we have with Allah. And once we solve those, we need to make sure that we're doing that. Otherwise, we're just out there causing more trouble and just being part of the problem instead of part of the solution. Leadership and creativity is an enormous topic, of course, and it's very dear to my heart. I appreciate having this topic to be able to talk about. At Rabata, which is my organization, we started online programming before it was something that everybody was doing, before COVID. It was a long time ago. And there's a lot of research out there about digital religion. And digital religion is something that the evangelical community is doing actually a really good job at, and they're quite successful at it. And Muslim community, we aren't doing too bad. We've actually had we have a history of using media to communicate our message. We have a history of using media, actually going all the way back to the beginning of radio. But we haven't really done a good job in respecting the power of digital religion. And it's a tool, and it's a place that we need to go in part of our creative leadership. And as a community, we need to learn how to step away from the prejudices that we come with. And here I'm not talking about racism and all that, which is real. I'm talking about this idea that the internet is something so scary, which it can be, absolutely. But it's there, and it's like a neighborhood. Every neighborhood, every place we live has neighborhoods that, especially for women, men don't experience this as often. But for women, there's always places that women don't go at night or don't go in the day. And there's always neighborhoods like this. And so the internet is the same. That there are places that you just don't go. But the internet itself, we need to create neighborhoods and communities there where people can come together, like-minded people around the world, especially as the frustration level in IRL community rises and people begin to feel so frustrated. We need to look for creative solutions, not only for the community as a whole, but for our individual selves to preserve our hearts and remove bitterness. And there's my 15-minute spiel. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tamara. Definitely, yeah, just a little bit over 15 minutes, but I think no one complained about that at all. I think I was making a lot of notes. My fingers are hurting as well. And lots of different quotes that I've written down as well. So we will move on to the next section, the questions and answers. We'll give it 15 minutes. So that should be okay. So just as a reminder to everyone that's watching as well, you can definitely direct message one of us, myself or Farah, if you want to ask a question. You can post it on the chat, but also equally we ask you to come on the screen and raise your hand if you're interested to ask a question yourself too. So I'll pass on to Farah for the first question.
Thank you. That was absolutely fantastic. Like Adnan, I've been tapping away, and just following little things like following the steps in the footsteps of our prophet, and how we can create positive cultural change to create educational experiences. It's absolutely fantastic. And one point that you sort of touched on, is very quite close to my heart, and that I would like you to share with our audience. And before I do that, sorry, I just would like to add, anyone who is watching online, if you would like to ask questions, come join our Zoom conversation as well. We, as Adnan said, we'd be happy to have you, and we would love to hear the differences of opinion as well. So my question is, how can you encourage women to be leaders and to be empowered? And how would you encourage women to take these steps from an Islamic perspective? And what challenges in particular do you think that women face lead on Islamically and from a religious point of view?
You were breaking up a little bit at the last part of that question.
Shall I repeat it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, how can you encourage women to be leaders, to be empowered, and take such steps from an Islamic perspective? And what challenges do you think women in particular face to lead Islamically, or to lead from the base of religion?
Okay, so everything I do is about helping women amplify the power that they have. Women, we are dealing in, quite frankly, we deal with a lot of misogyny in our community. I know that that's not a popular word, and it's really difficult for our community to accept this, and we want to always say how, no, mashallah, Islam elevates women, blah, blah, blah. Yes, Islam itself certainly not only honors women, but has provided a number of systems that ensure that women have financial independence, education, and all sorts of other things that we've learned are really important for women to have power in community. Now, that being said, our Muslim communities don't very rarely demonstrate this. I really feel my preferred place to throw that blame is on colonial experience, because although I know I'm speaking to an English audience, so my apologies there, since actually England was the colonizer quite often. But the colonial experience, if you look historically, really did have a very wide and deep influence on the Muslim community. And a lot of the problems we deal with today, and a lot of the rhetoric we hear from the minbar, is actually rooted in Christian thought. And that's really fascinating, I think, if we break it down. It's and that's one of the reasons I say we need to learn how to be honest about what we're dealing with. So, but as far as how can women individually work to seek authority or to seek leadership, a lot of the research that I did at my doctorate was around this, and it's really critical. There are a number of points that have been that my research showed are really important. One is that women need to be really deeply educated in religion, because a lot of people will try to weaponize religion against women. And so the only way that you can sort of wear an armor, if you will, against that type of weaponization is by knowing your faith really well. And so it's really a solid education. I believe in that Islamic education. It's really important to be by women and for women, at least at one stage of a Muslim woman's religious education, because otherwise we still can continue to hear the same rhetoric that, unless it's self-examined, is still oftentimes rooted in Christian or Hindu thought, even Hindu thought. So education is very important. Another thing that is very important and very helpful for women in finding authority in their community is to be successful in the non-Muslim world. This is just research. This is not, I'm not telling you the way things should be. To me, it's a point of grief that a Muslim woman has to be successful in the world of peoples of other faiths in order to be respected within our community. But research tells us that this is a way to have more authority in our community. The third thing that is really critical for women to, or one of the things that also I have found is really helpful, I should say, is if a woman breaks away and builds her own community, builds her own nonprofit, builds her own space, then she will be brought back into those spaces that didn't invite her later quite often as guest speakers, as those who are, and or even as board members or people of influence, which is in the end was the original goal. Those are maybe not the really most wonderful solutions. They don't feel like they are solutions that we want, but that is what research is telling us. And I think that we need to pay attention to that if we want to make real change. Now, as for the question of what about our religion? What about our religion? Are there issues and problems in our religion, in the religion itself? That's what I understood by that second part of the question. Maybe I understood it incorrectly. But that is something where we need to counteract false myths about women's leadership in community, about historical women's leadership. We are the only religion outside of, I think, the Church of Christian Scientists, who have as original parts of our canon, women who have not only contributed but helped to build that original canon. So it's just a myth that women can't hold leadership positions. And in the end, if we're going to be creative about leadership, we have to recognize that some of those positions we actually don't want because they're not effective. They're not making real change. They are sometimes propped up positions by Westerners who think that is what leadership is in our community, or trying to make us believe that that's what leadership is, when actually leadership is something altogether different. So I think there's a lot there to think about and talk about, and individually as ourselves, really think about how do we want to prepare ourselves to amplify the power that Allah has given us. And you'll notice I use the term amplify because empowering is so disempowering. When we say I'm going to empower you, we mean I'm coming in with the power and I'm going to give you power. And really, I prefer to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us power and we just need to learn it, amplify it, and live it.
That's absolutely fantastic. I 100% agree with you. And it's really important to recognize that, women do have that power. And as you said, spot on, we have to amplify it as well. And absolutely fantastic. We have so many questions coming for you. It's absolutely fantastic. Everyone do get involved. Message myself or Adnan if you have any questions, or message him in the chat box. And Adnan, I believe we have someone who has a question as well. So over to you.
We do. I'm going to bring on Sarah in just a second, but just to go back to Dr. Tamara, there's something that you said that actually I really heavily agree with, and it was about women doing or sort of being successful outside of the Muslim world, outside of not Islam, but outside of that, and actually doing it in sort of their career or anything else like that as well. And the reason why I say that is because I've had experiences very close in my family. For those that joined last year, they met my grandma. She is one of those women that I'd really look up to, and in fact, I'd say the women have done more than the men in many different ways. And for someone to be able to, work in a medical field as a woman and all of those things back in the day is very profound, and therefore it's doable. And you can definitely amplify leadership and creativity in real life. So I definitely wanted to agree with that. So moving forward, Sarah, we have Sarah who had a question and a remark. So I'll bring her to the screen if technology allows. Hi Sarah, can you hear us? Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yeah, over to you.
Okay, to say thank you so much, Dr. Gray. It's lovely to see you. I love your work. I find it really inspiring. Just a kind of comment about masjids in London. I'm a revert. I've been a Muslim, alhamdulillah, for 4 years now. I work in the community as an occupational therapist, so I'm traveling around quite a lot. And I'm trying to stay on top of my salat. So during the day, I have to pray in different places. And a lot of these environments, not particularly friendly. I think I'm kind of viewed with a certain amount of confusion as a white woman. And I think I've kind of got various ways of dealing with that. I certainly don't want to whinge or complain, because something that I've learned about Islam is that it's a place where I can be positive. And as Dr. Gray said, I think up solutions.
So is there a specific, so are you asking a question about that?
No, I think I'm just kind of commenting that as a newbie to the faith, and as I guess as a bit of an outsider, I do find masjids to be not particularly friendly environments. I guess that's going to be historical. A lot of the masjids in London in houses or above shops. They're very small environments. I think what's happening now is that more and more purpose-built masjids are being built where there are equal amount of space for sisters as well. So.
Thank you for the remarks, Sarah, because that's actually a very common theme that's coming up right now as well in the comments and questions section. And so we have specific questions around that as well. Farah, do we want to bring on the next speaker?
We will, and as Adnan says, this really is echoing in the chat box from Shabana. What more can masjids do to welcome women and allow them to lead? Mohammed has said, the community views women differently than elsewhere, and how can you persuade them to open the masjid for men and women? Which leads nicely onto Hawazin. Hawazin, over to you to ask your question to Dr. Tamara.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for your talk, mashallah. Very inspiring. So what I was wondering actually, what can we do to improve the inclusion of women in masajid? So I'm asking this question because I've seen a lot of talks on Twitter, for example, people giving their opinion, and one of the opinion was interesting. One of the person said, what about being part of the masjid as like volunteering, for example, and just to have us like with the team, and step by step they're going to be used to, because the old generation maybe not used to have like women as a leader. I don't know, maybe something like this. What do you think? What could we do to improve things, like in London or whatever, in masajid, in general?
Well, I think the first thing is that women need to recognize that we are a financial stronghold. We have money. And we have to stop giving money to messages that don't serve us. Period. End. Just stop. And it's okay to tell them, I usually give you XYZ, but I'm not giving you this year because there isn't a place for women to pray. Or I don't like the place that women are given to pray. Or I have been giving to you for these 10 years and I'm still not considered really an important voice in your community. So see you later, alligator. I'm giving this money elsewhere. And I say that, maybe, I say that with real seriousness. There is no obligation to give anywhere. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls on us to give sadaqah for sure. And there's great reward, certainly, in giving to masjids and building masjids. But is it a masjid if a person will come to that masjid and be told they can't pray in there? Is that actually a masjid? If they are clearly disobeying the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said, "La tamna'u imat Allah min masajid Allah," don't prevent the female servants of God from the masjid of God. How many women have been told, you can't pray here today, go pray outside in that parking lot? And that by itself, I don't know how they have the bravery to think they can face Allah with that, when Umar radiallahu an and his son Abdullah ibn Umar could not face Allah with such brazen misdeeds. And one of the problems when I say we need to solve our problems is that our community doesn't see these as brazen misdeeds. we need to see these as the brazen misdeeds that they are. That a woman would come to pray at the masjid and be told, brothers only, pray in the parking lot. Or would come and be told, you can't come into the beautiful space. You can go pray on that dirty blue carpeting that's right next to the bathroom. That's also keeping her out of the masjid, because the masjid is the place of prayer, not the place of messy, gross, dirty feet. And so we have a lot to think about, but you asked a beautiful question, which is what can we do to make that change? Can we do it volunteer? The first thing is stop giving money to places that won't listen. The second is, I don't know if volunteering will work. I think it depends. I think sometimes it will. I really think that we have a lot of really well-intentioned people on these boards of masjids, but they just don't understand what is happening. They don't know how their actions are negatively affecting women. And by negatively affecting women, negatively affecting families, also men. I mean, there are plenty of young men who are really offended when their sister can't go and pray and they have to stand out in the street. And I also call on men, don't give money to masjids where your sister can't go in and pray and she'll be told to pray on the street instead. I once was put out on the street, even though I was a guest speaker at a masjid. Like, there's crazy stuff going on. And so with that in mind, it's really important. I think that it's more important to have conversations, have tough, vulnerable conversations. Collect women from the community. Go ask for a board. Ask to be sitting with the board, and don't go and be honest. Talk about what it feels like. Give our feelings. Let them see and know what the pain is of Muslim women, and help them to see what is this going to mean for our future. And then also give solutions as to what do you want. So like say, what I want is ABC. I want to be able, anytime I want to come to pray, anytime the Sarahs of our community want to pray, that they should be able to come and do it. I want to able to bring my teenage daughter or my teenage son to the masjid and not have them feel like they're entering some kind of weird planet when everybody else goes to coffee shops and everything else. But when I go to the masjid, I can't go. Or I can't feel comfortable or what have you. So I think having conversations with boards is really important, because we have to talk about this. There's some kind of there's blinders out there, because even the new purpose-built masajid are not being built, in my opinion, they're not being built in the prophetic way. I'm seeing them. Millions of dollars are going into these spaces where still there isn't it's this weird thing where we can't, I don't know why we think we can do better than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't understand that. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a masjid, and there was purpose and reason. But why do we think we can do better than that? Why do we want to shunt women off to some other section and say, oh, mashallah, we gave them equal square feet? No. And I do think it is generous to create a space for women with babies who want to nurse, who want privacy. I think that is generous, and that is a forward-thinking thing to do. But to insist that women cannot stand in the main prayer hall is to say that we somehow know more than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which I find shocking, actually. So I think we have to have conversations. We have to talk about these things, and we need to do it with certainly adab and respect and care. We need to talk about them, and we need to be brave and have these brave conversations.
Barakallah fik. I think I'm going to, if I see something, I'm going to bring this, like with the leaders of the mosque, for example, or the kind of things, because I think the generation is changing. I mean, there's a lot of modification now, and all generation they're not so used to work with women. Maybe this is a gap. But I don't know. For me, masajid is a place where everyone should be welcomed. So we should not have like a war between men and women, right? Our religion is rahmah. So from that, like our Prophet ﷺ is rahmah, is preaching so much compassion and rahmah. So for me, we should find a solution, because it's not like for a long term. It's not very good. So yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's really critical. It's a really critical time, actually, especially as millions of dollars are going into building new purpose-built masajid. We need to be thinking about the next generations and not just bringing forth the same problems that we've had for the last decades.
Barakallah feek. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hawazin. Thank you, Dr. Tamara. Sorry, I have to pause it there because we probably have about a minute to go before the azan comes on. So we can have the final wrap up afterwards as well, after the azan. But just for the last minute, I think it'd be useful just to have a minute of reflection, just to think about everything that's been discussed today, because there's been really good points made. And then join us after the azan to just have a final conclusion and final say. Thank you, everyone. We'll have a
Thank you. We'll see you after azan.
اللهم إني لك صمت وبك آمنت وعلى رزقك أفطرت ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
Thank you so much, everyone today for joining Adnan and myself and Dr. Tamara Gray. It's been just absolutely wonderful. You know, I've really enjoyed your words on leadership and creativity, your perspective on digital religion and part design, and you know, having women amplify their power and making religious inclusive for all, and places of worship inclusive for all. That's been absolutely fantastic. We really enjoyed it. And Adnan, you know, over to you.
Thank you. I think for myself as well, I mean, it's been a fantastic conversation. I'm going through the comments now as well. And a lot of people are going back, you know, they've loved it, they've enjoyed it. People, Shabana saying we have the challenge to make a change. So on that point anyway, I mean, just final remarks from yourself, Dr. Tamara, and just a conclusion about sort of 30 seconds if you can.
Yeah, I think that this is the month of Ramadan, and so this is the month to be really brave about our own personal growth, because without real personal growth, we won't be able to come together for community growth. So my final comments would be really focus on the fast and your prayers, your Quran recitation, your sadaqah in this month, so that we can all come out of this month better than we were when we came into it, and in that all come together to make our communities better as well.
Thank you, Dr. Tamara. Thank you to such a fantastic talk that we've all really engaged with. I know I certainly have, and I'm sure everyone that's watching us definitely has as well. It's been a pleasure to have you here and to have everyone else with us as well. And so in the last few minutes, I just want to be able to say that thank you to our media partners, Islam Channel and the Arts Council UK for making this event possible. And also don't forget to collect your My Open Iftar pack online as well. You can get all the information online at RamadanTechProject.com, and you can find out how it's helping bring a lot more benefits to the wider aspect of the world as well, with Islamic relief. Ramadan is the month of charity and giving, so we wanted to tell you about the Launch Goods Ramadan challenge as well. So with the Ramadan challenge, you can automate your giving to support different projects around the world, setting up a donation amount to give to a different campaign, and you can find all the information again online on RDP. From myself and from everyone that's watching, it's been an absolute pleasure. Join us again. Farah, do you have anything else you want to add as well?
As always, it's been a pleasure. We've loved listening to you. We've loved listening to your comments, hearing your questions, hearing your voices. And we're looking forward to you joining us, Adnan and I, tomorrow evening, same time, same place. Do please join us.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you once again, Dr. Tamara. Inshallah, we'll see you again.
See you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.